You're now listening to the Chieftains podcast.
The
This is Chief X.
Chieftains. Chief Meta.
Chief Drea.
Okay, so we're going to head and get into it. Tonight's podcast, we're going to be discussing political blackness, ethnic gerrymandering, and that debacle known as the Revolt TV Summit. So, for the first topic, political blackness, all right, is defined according to the UK that anyone affected by racism can identify as black. Now, isn't that some BS? Political blackness was created during the anti-racist movement of the 70s in Britain and sought to create a unified group of people based on its political blackness known as BME, the Black and Minority Ethnic. During Black History Month, and I believe it was like a few years ago, Kent University celebrated the contributions of African, Caribbean, Asian, and Arab people. They ended up using images of One Direction singer Zayn Malik and London Mayor Sadiq Khan. This didn't go over well with the student body, as Black History Month for them was to celebrate the contributions of those of African and Caribbean descent. Even though we're not in the UK, political blackness is very relevant in the US. There are plenty of people checking that African American or black box, even though their lineage is what? Other. But they figure that just because they look like us, that they're able to grab the set-asides and benefits meant for us. Not only that, there are certain politicians that think just because they have some melanin, that they can use their melanin to get the black vote. I'm going to bring up a couple of names here. One of them being Kamala Harris and Cory, the corny-ass senator who wants to neglect the black vote to try and win the presidency. Sorry, bro. It ain't going to work. Being black is not a matter of convenience, which is why I'm all for having a code of conduct, and that code of conduct being based on the black agenda. You see, it is the code that determines who is in the family and who is outside of that family. An example, who are the associates? We have to build parameters around our thing and be clear about who we are, which means we need to be in control of defining that. So I have some questions. Question number one, should there be solidarity based on melanin alone?
No, it shouldn't. So let's go into that real quick. So speaking on being on code, as you mentioned, solidarity should not be based on melanin alone. Because anyone, right? And as ADOS, Pan-Africanists who share the same lineage but not on code. Also, too, we have those who have the same hair texture, same melanin hue, but also want to constantly replace ADOS. Employment, economics, housing, and more. And as we've known, as ADOS, we only have 2.6% of the wealth. And also, too, if you look at another chart, let me pull up the chart real quick. Africans that are, Black immigrants make so much more money than us and are worth more money. And we'll talk about that later. So the thing about it is this whole, we all are people of color, we are melanated, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, hey, I'm Black until the benefits kicked in. Then it's like, okay, now I'm going to go back to my tribe of people. And that's why lineage matter. So then we get left. When I'm talking about I'm talking about ADOS folks.
Exactly.
So we get emptiness and nothingness, which we'll discuss later as well. And if solidarity do happens, it's going to be ADOS that's going to lead the discussion, because we've been here for 400 plus years while, we've been fighting, sacrificing for immigrants to come over here, and they truly don't understand or experience the levels of systemic racism. See, there's levels of racism. I always say being called a nigger or / African booty scratcher, that's level 1. Graduate 100 class level, that's pretty much when my livelihood is getting compromised. That's when I am only worth $8 in Boston, Massachusetts. So that's what I'm talking about with systemic racism. Many non-ADOS usually don't identify as Black states. For example, I was reading this dissertation that this Ghanaian had wrote. He said, I never felt Black until I came to the United States. I never felt my melanin until I came to the United States. No one in Ghana never brought up my skin in the conversation. And you guys can look this up. It's called Becoming Black in America, Exploring Racial Identity Development of African Immigrants.
Definitely going to do that. Thank you.
So make sure you guys check that out. Link in the chat as well. So
okay, bet.
What's the next topic.
The next question I had was this: and how and why should we be in control of defining for ourselves what being black means?
Well, as an ADOS FBA, we're a special group with an actual justice claim, and we can't afford to allow other people to define who we are and our unpaid reparations. Because I do see people of various swaths hopping in the conversation, and I actually have screenshots from before I was banned from Twitter for asking a white woman why she was in the conversation. I used a little bit of colorful language. I'm sure you remember that, but we're not really going to speak on it too much. But there was a young lady, and I'm sorry for taking a bit of time right here.
Go ahead.
Yes, it's up here in my screenshots. It's definitely there. I love to keep the evidence around. All right. I was Roland Martin. I saw that from him, and he said he always had time for dumbasses, and then he blocked me because he was angry about something else. But anyway, the young woman's name was Carmani or something like that. I can't really pronounce it right now. I can't see it to spell it.
It's all good.
But she was saying, what about people from the USVI, and just basically trying to throw whataboutisms and monkey wrenches into the conversation. And I came back and said, well, the USVI didn't become U.S. property until 1916, so they would have to speak to the Netherlands or the Dutch to get their justice claim.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And then I got a personal insult directed at me. Because of that, I got called insane. So,
wow,
gaslighting.
That's not good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's definitely that. You know, we have to constantly create boundaries and limitations on blackness. And here's another thing, and I thought about this when I was walking outside. This is just a personal thought. I don't want to say we were the very first people, but we were one of the first people to popularize blackness with a capital B, period, to where it's a thing to be and not a limitation, period. So we popularized being black in this way, expressing yourself in this way, you know, internationally. We gave a lot of different groups the blueprint. So that being said, that's cool. We're going to speak on that later. But when it comes to reparations for us who were of this lineage here, you know, we can't afford to have this we're the world kind of politics because our reparations are up for grabs. It's not a cool situation. Everything else gets out of our control. We don't need to let that get out of our control. Hence,
no, not at all.
Yeah, you can't be a grifter and all of a sudden come back and claim your reparations. That's a bit of That's a bit of gerrymandering, Jerry. That's a little bit of the Jerry. You're doing a little bit of the Jerry.
Jerry. Moving the lines.
Right. Exactly.
Oh, you were living this international.
When it's convenient for you.
You were living this international. Get your passport, Negro life among all your other friends and claiming these different ethnic groups like people on Black Planet from 2001. I'm Scottish, Irish, Jamaican.
There was everything under the sun.
20 million things, everything under the sun but the black that you are. And then when it comes to some type of financial or academic benefit, then it's back to the grill again. Not only are you black, but you're advocating for everything black with your spin on it.
Exactly.
Hence, that's why eligibility matters. What does your lifestyle reflect? Have you been black that whole time? Have you been putting black on the census that whole time? Has it been about things other than that? Like if I ask people that have been around you, you know, we can't quantify that, but imagine if we had an open door policy on reparations, you know, we would have all types of interloping going on. That's just my piece on that situation.
Yeah.
I don't intend to offend, but if I do, you should examine that. Really look at the data behind what we're saying, especially that. How much are black people worth in Boston? ADOS, African Americans worth in Boston?
$8. $8.
How far can you get in the cab with $8? Or don't you need to put in at least 10, right?
Yeah, just about
Right.
10. 10 sounds about right.
About 10. And if you're going from like Roxbury to Mattapan, yes, you can only put about 10. Or you probably have to put 15.
Is that $8 even money down on one of those discount phones that people make fun of when someone's trying to find a job? A lot of places we live in. Can you even put $8 on that?
Right.
No, you can't. You can't even do $8 on them trap phones.
Yeah, you probably start off with probably $8.
How much you can put on a Charlie card with $8?
Not much.
Let me see. You could have 3 train rides. You probably have one round trip and one. Mm-hmm.
So
you're not going too far.
Is that enough?
You're not going too far.
Let's say you just got your interview, right? So that's the trip there, the trip back. Can you get to work tomorrow? What about the next day? And when does your check come? $8.
And what about groceries?
What about groceries? School supplies.
Yeah.
You see? And this is why, like, being clear about who deserves reparations is so important, because this goes now into closing the racial wealth gap and also land ownership. You know, Sandy Darity definitely talked about those parameters there for a very specific reason, because as you touched on, if, you know, CARICOM, they're not checking for us. When we go over there, they're going to be very specific, right? They say flat out, you know, who they're trying to divvy out reparations to. If I wasn't over there in the islands, you know, then I won't qualify for reparations. I don't descend from over there. I descend from here, and our issues are very specific to the American government. It doesn't go all the way out to, for example, China and all these other governments, which we have nothing to do with. But other than that, I think it's definitely important that we for us, that we understand it very clearly and stand on that, and not allow other people to come into conversation who have no idea and or they have ulterior motives to try and steer the conversation into an entirely different direction. Because, oh, what about us? You know, we're black too. But hold up, were your folks descendants of slaves within America, right? Were your folks sharecroppers? You know, when did your folks get here? Did they come after 1965?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And now this leads me to the third question. Just because you experience some form of racism, does that automatically open up the door to identify as black? And now I know you said before about there are levels to racism, so maybe we could start with probably defining what racism is.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So like I was saying about racism and what racism is pretty much like, I always say it's an act of putting limitations on one's life as far as with, you know, nationalities. For this content, we're talking about being ADOS. We all experience some type of form of racism, and we still experience it. And for my example, like I said, being called a nigga, so we're talking about, you know, we all experience that. We haven't some form of that. That's elementary school level. Yes, that's the level of, okay, that's mental racism. And when I'm talking about mental racism or even verbal racism, it's like, oh man, I'm a nigga. But nigga doesn't have a color attached to the dictionary. It means that you're an ignorant person. So if you're sitting up here saying, oh, you a nigga, oh, so you're saying I'm an ignorant person. But that's when the ER is brought into it. And as we know historically, you know, our ancestors was called niggers to break down. And, you know, then we have the flip side to it when we have, like I said, you know, those who are from the continent. Oh, you guys call me an African boy scratcher on the playground. So we're talking how do we know, how we identify with national in the kindergarten or even let's say in the first grade. You just know, hey, we're all black until we, you know, graduate from, you know, first grade, and then we get to a level of understanding of, oh no, you're a different type of black. Because, you know, let's say my last name is Smith, is, you know, just pick an African last name. And then you start identifying with, okay, what groups, what's my lineage? And then people still have a hard time with what I've been called a African booty scratcher. Then, like I said, we graduate from name calling that. Now my group is only worth $8 in Boston because I'm ADOS. While your group, I have this pulled up. is actually worth $60,000, and your family just got over here for decades. But yet, you're telling me that my group, ADOS, we're lazy, we're uneducated, everything under the sun, but not knowing that our sacrifices also, too, we have been shut out, education attainment, economic attainment, and you just got over here yesterday, but you have been a tool of white supremacy. And then you're calling me and my group lazy, but not knowing that, okay, it's 6 figures, not knowing that, also too, I come from parents of sharecroppers, in Alabama, going through Jim Crow, went to segregated schools. And also too, you're not even tapped into understanding that, oh, guys, that's you're Black because someone told you you're Black when you came to the United States. So that's a form of racism for me, my understanding. Also too, we always hear Obama couldn't catch a cab, in any town USA. Okay, Obama things, but have you been harassed by the police? Have you been gunned down? Can you say that, let's say 2 of your cousins got gunned down in New York or in Boston or in St. Louis by police brutality? So, like levels of racism, and I think we don't touch on like systemic racism that's been in place, far as with redlining, far as with having the opportunity to use your GI Bill to, enhance your holistic life. So we don't have those conversations because when they call me African booty scratcher, they called me a nigger with the ER. So that's my that's my, like I said, talking about racism, and then they want to group their racist experience with ADOS.
Right.
We systemic racism since the beginning of time. So
exactly. I believe it was Dr. Claude Anderson that said that racism is not about a personal prejudice. It's legit. It's not about how you feel about the other person standing in front of you. No, it's simply about power and resources. And if I can exclude you from being a part of the dominant group, then I'm going to do that, even though we know this to be true that white people make up a minority of the world. However, they are the dominant society because they have all of the resources. Legit. They own America. So with that being said, I think now we can go into ethnic gerrymandering. Go ahead, Chief Meta.
Oh boy, ethnic gerrymandering. Here we go. Ethnic gerrymandering is the practice of conveniently using one's non-Black / alleged POC proximity to whiteness or Blackness to assimilate, gain favor, or subterfuge, engage in subterfuge / law enforcement assistance. Both sides of a different, the same coin. Or social / occupation advancement. Example, white aspirant Latinos demonstrating their Americanness after police violence against Black citizens in internet comments or on television, siding with law enforcement, making snide comments and mirroring their white ring employers, neighbors, or political figures that they admire, using anti-Black stereotypes from Latin American media, combined with traditional U.S. anti-Blackness to deny factual evidence of institutional racism, and saying that, well, I made it here, so you can too, mixed with other little subtle things that I've noticed. We'll speak more on that later. Example 2, mixed race European and Canadian artists using the U.S. one-drop inclusive idea of Blackness to enter our sphere of influence with questions like, if whites can love hip-hop, how come we can't love rock, without providing authorship context in regards to the latter genre, a genre reinvented.
Right.
The same brand of individual will then use connections gained due to their whiteness proximity to advance his or her career. And a lot of us don't have those connections. We're not.
That's true.
In proximity to all that. And another artist saying the only racism they experienced was African American, saying he or she didn't know racism due to his or her upbringing in an upper middle class white Canadian household. That's very odd. And then especially when that person got exposed was a year back for wearing blackface. And this person was wearing blackface, and they said it was to speak out for, Black people being pigeonholed in roles. That was kind of odd. But then you say the only racism was people from the U.S. saying, well, you're Canadian, you don't understand. Which one is it, fam? I don't know. That was
Mm-hmm.
kind of odd for me. Or how
Oh, yeah.
Latinos, Arabs, Asians, or other visible minorities will use visible minority status as an excuse to engage in white mirroring racist behavior and or gain access to black spaces for platform boosts. Like Rich Chiga, the artist, and his name was even an insult, Chinese, Nigga, you feel me? That in itself, he calls himself Rich. He calls himself Rich Brian now, but they do this, the Latin explosion, the Asian explosion, how this rap subculture was built. You know what I mean? And it's off the back of certain people's pain, for real, for real. Music is for everybody, but with the trap stuff, it's like when I see other groups of people doing that, it's mockery. It's already buffoonery in a way, but it's a definite mockery when I see that. It's not showing homage or honor at all. It's mockery and commercialism. But that's just my opinion. An example 3 is the Kool Herc Bam Flash story being emphasized over lesser known but equally or more important figures like Disco King Mario, Green Eyed Genie, and DJ Hollywood, overemphasizing an alleged early Caribbean influence within hip-hop/rap b-boy culture while turning a blind eye, a lack of knowledge about the African American influences over the main Caribbean world musical export. And from what I have done my research and seen earlier, there was a BBC article or a report. So I think maybe a few worlds may have collided. BBC is a British programming source. That's their media. And the Caribbean, especially Jamaica, was once a crown colony. They're still part. They're still part of the Commonwealth. How people from Jamaica have a high population in the United Kingdom and in Canada and in that part of the United States. And I'm pretty sure that the media figures from the United Kingdom saw that kinship, was like, okay, this person's from Jamaica, bet. We're already familiar with that musical style because they're over here. We can get locked in with this audience. It's easy. It's an easier story to make. They didn't interview everybody. It was the hood. It was the project. So it's ill how they only got to talk to Herc, Bam, and Flash, and they all 3 happen to be Caribbean. It's kind of, and it was that one article that made that happen.
Yes, that agenda to kind of replace the creators of a particular genre or rather culture, right? To try to segue into that, they're trying to move into something that we had everything to do with, and not saying that we were excluding them, but more so the issue came down to whom you're crediting and whom it originally belonged to. Because, for example, if let's say a group of Black Americans moved down to Jamaica, I'm pretty sure they would have an issue with us trying to take over reggae music, right? It would be a problem. Right. So then why do you have a whole bunch of Caribbean folk who are now speaking for the culture of hip hop or saying that we are the godfathers of hip hop? Not saying that you guys didn't have an influence or possibly work with the Black Americans who were responsible, ADOS who were responsible for said genre, but KRS One learned real quick that hey, you have to give credit where credit is due because it makes you look funny style when you're trying to roll along with that agenda.
That is 100% factual. And it's odd how, to flip that on his head, is this a series of miscommunications or was this just done on purpose? Was it a convenient storyline? Because people don't really speak on us having to dig deeper for obvious historical connections that follow the logic of population. A larger, more culturally established group, meaning ADOS, known for exporting culture since the late 1800s, our musical culture, the field singing, et cetera, has been exported worldwide, continually influencing a smaller nearby group by proximity, which would be the Caribbean. I think Jamaica has a population of 2.5 million. I'm not sure. with minimum cultural overlap due to immigration laws pre-1964. And I think that reggae was invented around 1965 or 1966. I'll give it a little earlier than that. So it's a very young musical form. And shout outs to those early Miami visits from Count Machuki, who bought a jive slang African American book and listened to African American radio DJs and applied that to his own music, called that toasting later. So that ties
so that's where that came from.
Yeah, and then the British media and I think the white American media kind of skewed the story and mixed that in together, like, oh, they brought that over. We were already doing that, and they actually they were influenced by us. See, they erased that and then move it all the way back to, well, it's African music and it was a griot tradition, which makes a bit of sense. And there's probably a little bit of application there. I'm not going to deny that there was some vestigial leftover West African, Central African, and Northern African or Sahelian African traditions that carried over, but our group was stripped of the drums. We weren't allowed to have our drums for fun outside of a small window of time in Congo Square in New Orleans, and there are 44 million of us now, so that's not the majority
at all. That tells you right there that a lot that we did here, we did on our own and without outside influence. All that came from, when they say inspiration means inner, coming from within. Like, we brought all that to the forefront from everything that we had here. And sometimes it just meant just our hands and feet. And then we had to rebuild again and do it some more, whether that's through musical forms or through our oral traditions. Guess what? We are distinct. We're just different. And yet we influence the entire world with a lot of different stuff.
Yep.
The other thing I want to discuss was the that debacle known as the Revolt TV Summit. Now,
oh Lord.
All right, there's a certain part in here. You all haven't watched it. Get ready.
Yes.
Buckle in, and I'm gonna play a little bit from that, and then I need for you all to chime in and give me your your opinions on this.
Yes.
I heard about it, man. You subjecting me.
You didn't watch it? You gotta go watch it.
Oh, here we go. Play it.
And we've got folks coming to ask questions, and we got a long line. So if you can ask your question as quickly as possible so we can get as many in. The CEO of the Tulsa Real Estate Fund.
What? Tulsa, what? Where?
We suffer from political oppression, economic exploitation, and social degradation. I believe for us to end our political oppression, we need political unity. This is a healthy debate, but I think we're approaching it too micro and not enough macro. I believe if we're going to unify, we got to unify first around nationality. So my question is, Tip knows this. We spoke about it in your race outside my office. Tamika knows this. We spoke about this for years. Puff, we want to bring this to you. We need a Black Vote Day, not a vote day about Democrat or Republican. We need to vote about who we are as a people. Are we Africans in America? Are we Pan-Africans? Are we Moors? Are we Nation of Islam? Who is our nationality? What is our flag? What is our constitution? What are our bylaws? What are our values? And so what I'm saying to the panel and us as leaders, can we be that intentional, Mike, about burning down both the Baptist houses, focusing on our own house, galvanizing all of our leaders in one place at one time to vote on our nationality, our flag, our values, and have a Black Vote Day in real life? Can we do that?
I think it would be helpful.
Wow.
Because there's a lot of conversation right now around reparations and so on and so forth. But as I have been enlightened by Brother Jay Morrison, we can't get reparations because we haven't been officially classified as a nationality.
What? Who told you that?
So you can't give reparations to people
who
don't
Jewish
have an official
nationality, because all of them don't live in Israel.
A constitution, and you have a seat at the UN.
I mean, I smoke weed too. He must smoke something.
So when we speak, when people ask me reparations, I'm That's putting the cart before the horse. So I understand the importance of that, but I also think that it has to be detailed instructions, line items, step by step of how to achieve this goal, so you will know exactly what you're asking people to do.
Thank you, brother. Brother, we got a long line, but let me get as many questions as I can. Thank you, brother.
Oh my God, what do y'all think about it?
So first of all, I have to say this real quick. If there's a such thing, Carter G. Woodson will be turning in his grave, because he spoke about this and miseducation of the Negro, and that's what you're being. What's his name? Jermaine Morrison, aka Jay, was just so miseducated. Your man Tip was miseducated, and of course, he tried to seem so enlightening. So because he used these big philosophical words to like smooth things over. And when Jay got up, it was like, oh, we're Africans and Americans and all with this. They should have been like, sir, perhaps, and where's our flag at? He doesn't know enough, right? And he's over here dropping names, but me and Tip had a conversation about this. It's just a whole bunch of confusion. And he just don't want to have a problem with what he said. Since he's down with this whole Tulsa real estate, you obviously didn't do your research on Tulsa, Oklahoma and Black Wall Street to even know that we've been here. We've been doing this, entrepreneurship. You don't understand the atrocities that happen. So obviously you didn't do your research to know that we are ADOS. We are, Black Americans. And he's throwing out all these different names and all these different things.
He was like Pan-African, Moorish.
Yeah.
Like, come on, fam.
Like all these different factions. Do these people even know you? Because I know you just can't speak on the nation. And these Moorish people, like they had their own guidelines and bylaws and things that they follow in their own codes, and you're just throwing them out there. Like these aren't ethnic groups, and some of them are. Like there's actual Moorish people from North Africa outside of the people in the United States who refer to themselves as Moors but are actually African Americans. Shout outs to them. People can, be who they want to be. Either way, I see what he was trying to do, casting out all of these die to cause confusion. And then with the Black Vote Day, who's even qualified to vote? Like, do you have an age set? What is the person, who? Because you kept saying you was Dominican, so.
In his book called like the Solution, and then also in a different conversation, he mentioned that the people who we qualified to vote would be like, for example, the celebrities and the influencers. And there's a few problems there. Like, for example, like, yeah, you'll be able to vote, but the delegates will be the electorate college. So your delegates will be like your celebrities, your basketball players, your Black influencers will be like, they will be your electorate college, right? And all the other people will just have like one vote. This makes no sense at all. Okay, right? We're voting on a nationality. We're having a plebiscite, as he would call it, a plebiscite.
Right. But the thing that killed me about what Jay said that now, I see if he got up and said, you know what, we need to advocate for, because isn't he a felon and isn't Tib an 8-time felon? So I see if you got up and you had mentioned that, like, we need to, change policy around that. Cool. But he was just talking like he knew the answer and it wouldn't make sense at all.
Like, I get it, because people always bring that up. Like, okay, you name the problems, but you don't have any solutions. So these two individuals try to throw out a whole bunch of mixed piecemeal solutions from multiple different sources, and you could tell they didn't come up with those bars on their own,
right?
At all. Put together to say, well, this is a solution. But as we all three analyze it right now, like that wouldn't be effective at all. That's actually sedition. You get you into trouble. Are you trying to?
And it's going to cause more confusion.
Government?
Right.
Yeah. Like sounds Sounds kind of crazy, and they're not really about that. Like, do they have the resources to secede from the U.S. government?
Mm-hmm.
You're saying burning down both of Master's houses, but who donates to you? People that are subject to those laws. Some of these people might even work for the government.
Mm-hmm.
That's their employer.
Right.
Associating with your talk, how's that going to work out for their employment future?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the other thing that comes up is that our case, like the UN already said that we deserve reparations, right? So once again, they're trying to go back into that whole thing there of bringing our whole argument forward to the UN. America has veto power there. Right. And not saying like, and the thing is, we're going directly to America for our issues. We don't need to take it before the UN. And that tells me right there that like Tip and Jay Morrison, not only do they not know enough, but they haven't done their due diligence. And also just because they have some form of like visibility and some form of like followership that somehow that makes them qualified to speak on political issues affecting foundational Black Americans. I applaud some of the things that T.I. has done, but when it comes to Jay Morrison, there are some, obvious issues there. And I don't want to, throw this man under the bus. But other than that, I'll just say that there, for the next Revolt TV Summit, should there be one, Tone needs to be there, Yvette needs to be there, Tariq Nasheed needs to be there, and some other qualified people who can anchor this discussion and a certain reality that is not about the fanciful, not about this fantasy of, okay, once you declare a certain nationality, that somehow reparations will fall out of the sky. We already have a nationality.
Yeah. Speaking of the UN, right? And I hate to rewind back, but it's odd how they want to bring our case up to the UN and a prosecutor for the International Criminal Court. Are they affiliated with the United Nations at all? ICC?
I highly doubt it.
Because I only see I see their prosecutor has 11 investigations open, and they're only African countries. For now. So if they were both affiliated, and if they're not, forgive me for that, but I just thought that was kind of interesting. We wouldn't really have a chance bringing anything to them.
Right.
Period.
Yeah, not there, not to the UN. This is more of an issue of like the homeland discussion and us taking it forward with like the Supreme Court and the president signing executive orders and things of that nature. And then that being also tying into the local and state governments and whatnot. And also we like America knows that the debt is owed. So like this is not really that hard or complicated. It's just when you have people like them having that type of discussion in the open forum, and then you have all the cameras there, and then of course Twitter, and then overall social media. Of course, there will be people who don't have strong critical thinking skills. They'll hop on board with that and think that it's sound advice,
right?
And that's where the problem lies.
And I mean, like, I just think that the Revolt TV Summit was just pretty much, how can I build my social capital and get the bag? I don't think this was the appropriate time to have that conversation without vetting the expertise, because who has expertise in, being an economist or even knowing about reparations? It's just celebrating the celebrities getting together in a room and just have like a powwow on, this is my opinion. And, like reparations, what? I don't need it. But not knowing that, I guess they was in Atlanta, like, look at how vastly it's getting gentrified. But you're like, I'm buying a block. Yeah, but you bought a block and you take also opportunity zones. You still don't have enough. And what are you doing that for? Who are you doing it for? So, reparations. And I think sometimes too, they're thinking, this is self-reparations. Like, I'm buying a block for the people, and I'm going to like create jobs, but it's still not going to be enough.
No, it's not enough.
So it's not going to be enough. So it was just an interesting I thought she was gonna play the other clip with T.I., Killer Mike, and David Banner having a conversation around that.
Oh no, I wanted to focus on that particular piece there because it fit. Like what I was trying to get at was that like there are many people out there who think that you have to declare nationality, and the thing is like all that really is just adding another layer of confusion, and also there's also oftentimes another agenda there. Like a lot of people who have these nationality packets running around. Hey, $99.99, $59.99, declared nationality. Like it's another hustle. And we've been hustled enough, man. For people who have hardly no wealth at all, you know, we're tired of being scammed. All right.
Exactly.
And that's what I was trying to get at. It was that, and also now we can now move into the conversation involving H&M, you know, with that little black girl.
Oh, Lord.
And earlier today, I said something on my Facebook status, and I was like, "Yo, some of y'all reacted so quick to that H&M picture, that beautiful black girl called a racist, and the parents screaming about why her hair wasn't done, and all of that." So her hair grows that way naturally, and it seemed the majority had a problem with it were black women. Some of y'all really are telling on yourselves out here. And what so many failed to understand was that all the children during that campaign had their hair unkempt. And so many of us missed the point of it. Until we get comfortable with who we are and how we look, whether our hair is done or not done, we'll continue to focus all on the wrong things, including with this innate self-hatred. So some of those comments on that young lady's photo were uncalled for and show that so many of us are insecure about who we are. Now, I don't care about H&M personally, but it was the comments.
Some examples of some of the comments?
Can I read a quote before you do that?
Go ahead.
Oh, sure.
So I was reading today on the Atlantic Journal-Constitution, and it said comments regarding one of our models for H&M Kids. And so this is what was quoted in essence. We are aware of the comments regarding one of our models for H&M Kids. We truly believe that all kids should be allowed to be kids. The fashion brand said in an exclusive statement, as school-age kids who model for us come to the photo studio in the afternoon after school, and we aim for a natural look reflects that. And H&M's head of inclusion, Nzini Kabiri, I think she's African, also responded in a disapproval on her Instagram. And so she showed like her having natural hair and the H&M model having natural hair. Pretty interesting. You know, they're coming from after school. Of course, your hair is going to be all over the place. But as you mentioned, we can't even appreciate our natural look. And that's coming from me. I wear my hair natural and I get looks all the time. Like, why do you wear it? And I'm like, hun, if you take that 27-inch weave off, your hair will look like this underneath. And what it is if her hair was 3C, right? So I'm talking about looser curl pattern. No one would have a problem with it. Because it's I hate the hair typing too. Because it's 4A, 4B, 4C, tightly coiled. It's like, oh my God, no, it's unkept. So we're not gonna celebrate all natural curls. We're just gonna celebrate the loosely. Because here goes the exoticism, right? Oh, you look kind of exotic because you got the loose pattern curl, but I'm not going to celebrate this beautiful young child who has tightly coiled. Right. So interesting.
That's very, very odd. And could you elaborate on the other woman having natural hair? Like, did she have her natural hair, quote unquote, done in a style? Because that's even further conversation. Maybe they were aiming for a natural look. Why would you get your child's hair styled before you were sending her out to go play in the dirt with other children?
Oh, as far as with the H&M inclusion diversity person?
Yes.
She was showing her picture when she's the same age as this model, so she probably was like 6 in this picture. Her hair was natural, and she was showing that it looked the exact same way. And she was just saying like, hey, this is way. I'll put the link in here too. She was just saying like, hey, this is way. And I think now she has a weave in her photo, which is fine. You can wear your protective styles. I wear protective styles too. But at the same time too, is that like you Black women. That's going back to Gabby Douglas. Remember when Gabby Douglas, her hair was looking natural in a natural state,
right.
and all these black women, child, why her hair is looking like that? That's what your hair look like.
Exactly.
This gets me upset.
When you take that off,
it's like
that's
that.
what it look like.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
the question becomes like, who taught you to hate yourself?
Right.
You know, it'd be crazy if there's a show called Wig Snatch where there were two women and they looked through internet comments about like women hating on folks' hair, and then they pulled up on them to see if their hair was done right. Like, oh, is your hair done right? Or what does your hair look like right now? We're gonna pull up on you unprepared. Right. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
I see what you look like right. Since you want to talk about these people on the internet.
Exactly.
And even have it with dudes like that talk about people's gear. I was like, such and such look dirty, or that man kid look dirty, and then they pop up at their crib. Oh, well, look, what's going on? That would be very, very interesting. Let that child shine, because these would be the same people if she was not in the ad. They'd be like, oh, where's the black kid at? Where's the black child? She's not there. I understand wanting to be represented right. This is not one of those situations.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. Just a little girl.
Yeah.
She's just a little girl, and all that negativity, you know, and yet, you know, what we got to learn how to do is stop reacting. Like, why are we reacting so quickly, right? Do we ever take time to just reflect and then like, okay, let me make sure that my ducks are in a row before I say something.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
On a side
and like
note,
I said, I don't really care about H&M. The issue is I care more about the black woman loving themselves for who they are.
On a side note, because that's true, and we should all, you know, that the self-love is needed, especially there. But on some weird tip, take a look at the posts that they're using as examples. Like, oh, be so disrespectful, it's almost gangster. Y'all know y'all wouldn't put no white child hair undone. That person has 42 followers. They're getting no engagement. AJC put a post with 31 likes. The Black House shares child in the H&M photo needed proper care. The problem is not the fact that the child has 4C hair. The problem is that these white non-black hairstylists deliberately aren't wanting to deal with the complexities of how to treat type 4 hair. 31 likes. 31 likes. There's not a lot of engagement.
They didn't think before they posted a lot of those comments.
No.
Like, they didn't go through the entire advertising campaign. Did not notice that all the children had unkept hair.
Right. And
but
see, on the other side of the coin, AJC didn't go through all the posts and realize that the posts that they're using as examples didn't get much engagement at all. Like, there's one that doesn't have any likes. Like, these aren't popular posts. There's one that has 1 like. But there are several who said the criticism was unnecessary.
But they were focusing on the wrong thing.
Yeah. And look, there are several that said the criticism was unnecessary. These are getting way more likes. These are getting 13,000 likes. There's a little black girl whose face is floating around the internet who should be celebrating landing a modeling opportunity for H&M right now. Yo, you know what I think this is? I think this is fake. I think they did this on purpose. Like, okay, I made a post about it earlier where they say the models are getting bullied. Oh, they said this girl was too ugly for modeling. Who said that? Who said
That's
that?
what I want to know. Who said it? Where's this coming from?
Because these other posts have minimal engagement. They're not even popping like that. The posts that they had as examples for negative posts, and they weren't making fun of the girl. They were mad at, they were mad at H&M because we're used to these companies being on some bullshit with us. Why are they on some bullshit with us? For conflict marketing purposes, because they know we'll respond and will keep saying H&M. Like me, I'm making a mistake by doing that. They're tagging the people over and over again. They're advertising to them for free on both ends of the conversation. The conversation itself is an advertisement. and then we're gonna have an article about who the little girl is, and then she's gonna be popping for like, maybe she's not even, I don't know, but you know how this goes.
Yeah. It's no difference, like I mentioned with Gabby Douglas in the Olympics.
Wow.
And all of a sudden now it's like, and to see this Gabby Douglas girl, not her killing it in gymnastics, but oh child, look at her hair. You focusing more on her hair instead of her talent. And so you're just pouring more energy into her. And she's like, look. And then the girl had pretty much down because of all the negative attention on her hair. It's just ridiculous.
Wow.
It's true. It really is ridiculous, you know? And, yeah, wow.
And that's, you know, that's one odd, rare example of where there should be a conversation about that type of mass criticism, you know, in the greater Black woman community. As a man, it's not my business, but I do notice that when it comes to us and the things that we do, you know,
right,
to each other, as far as like, you know, being harsh and being cruel and, you know, not being the best shoulders, I guess, to the outside. I think we do pretty fine toward each other, other than the murdering. Nah, I mean, we're pretty good dudes toward each other. We don't engage in certain acts that I've seen other communities engage in.
Right.
As far as male bonding is concerned, I'm not going to elaborate on that because it's 100% totally inappropriate.
Right.
You know, and this kind of opens up a dialogue. Like, look, we're not the only people that need some adjustment. You know, there's always some on the other side over there.
Definitely.
Cause I saw that man that got touched by a white man who wasn't held accountable say again that Black men need to be held accountable for things. And I'm like, oh, well, it's interesting to bring that up. When it came to this hair, we're not really in that conversation much. Maybe chiming in once in a while to be on some ha-ha, but that's not really much of our business. That's not our billions of dollars a year. We're allegedly spending money on Jordan.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean,
and then when you found that out to be actually be untrue, right?
Yeah, that's actually very untrue.
Right.
Yeah, we should have a separate episode on that. Those memes, those social engineering memes.
Oh yeah, we should. We'll definitely get that together. Definitely get on that one.
Like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's definitely a warfare going on.
Yeah, and the thing that natural hair piece, natural hair is still banned in certain states, and that really upsets me because you have to. There is a policy that's being like now for Black women to wear their hair in their natural state. California just passed a law that you can wear your hair natural in the workplace. I think the military relaxed some of their laws in regards to, you know, but it's turning into this whole political piece that, so my hair is being politicized on whether or not I could wear it to work or not. And I have homegirls who's like, girl, I know you didn't wear your hair like that to a job interview. I'm not. You're not going to get a job. Every job I have got thus far, and I mean, being running nonprofit agencies, I have gotten with my natural hair. Yeah, I have homegirls who will go spend. Yeah, because you're going to respect me. Because guess what?
Put it on the line.
Bundles, right?
I'm me. I'm right here and I'm me.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Because what's the sense of me spending $500, which I have homegirls who do that, spend $500 on a sew-in for the bundles, then 3 months later, they what's going on? What happened to your long hair?
Yeah, priorities, man. Priorities, man.
It makes us think like, okay,
it makes no sense.
How many interviews have I went on without an edge up? You feel me? Or without, because we're not allowed to put a do-rag on. How many interviews have we went on with? Damn, man.
Plenty, fam. Plenty.
Because I haven't.
Plenty.
I always had my hair somewhat cut. I did not feel
like
right.
I mean, I hadn't necessarily had a fresh cut. You know what I mean? But like, put it this way, it was still neat, but it was, it wasn't a fresh cut necessarily either.
Yo, we should be able to walk in that joint wild.
You know what I mean? Like, we should be able to, and that's the thing. We talk about this whole thing involving respectability politics, and that's one of those things right there. Like, all right, I should be able to. If I don't feel like, I'm not saying you should like say screw taking care of yourself, but like, there are days where like, okay, I just don't want to do that today. Like, I don't feel like I need to just get out of bed immediately. Like, with a little bit of hair I got left now, like I don't feel like brushing it today.
Right.
There are days sometimes now, like I said, with a little bit of hair I got left now, sometimes I don't bother shaving it all off. I'm not saying that I don't care about myself, but it's just like, okay, I'm that confident that sometimes I do that. And some people just don't have that level of confidence, or some people, they care more about what others might think of them and how they're perceived. And that's okay too. You should take pride in how you look, but we're talking, back to that conversation with the kid, you're talking about a child, they're not conceptualizing any of that right there.
There's no job interview or anything like that for her. And even if there was, it's just like Chief Drea said, you're putting it right on the line. Like, I'm me and myself. This is me in my natural state. I'm not going to live up to your standard anymore. It's not a standard.
And I mean, it's getting younger and younger. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's
right.
Beautiful.
And it's getting younger and younger with the programming, because even with me, mentoring young ladies, they're like, oh, Miss Drea, bundles. Like, that's the norm, right? And I'm looking like, no, this is how my hair look. I twisted. It's a process with my hair. I can teach you how to do, your hair. And they're like, what? Even when I cut my hair, I cut it bald. It was like, oh my God, are you going to get a job? And it's like, what? What that has to do with me getting a job? I have a resume that shows my qualifications, so it's just interesting. And this child came from school. It's not like, okay, they kicked in, and if they was, so what? Is natural hair. That's that child's hair.
She probably plays sports.
How old is she?
Yeah.
She probably plays soccer or something, basketball. Right. She could be on the swim team. You're like, come on, fam.
She's like below double digits, right?
Yeah.
Man, that's a baby. Like,
exactly.
It would be weird to have that child all done up like that in the first place. Like, I'm not gonna lie, when I used to see that in the 90s, like a super young, like a 4 or 5 year old girl with like the long, super done hair. Like, what are you doing, fam? That's a little much.
Yeah, it's a lot. They're going really extreme with it now, to where like they got little black girls now, and like these exotic weaves where it comes all the way down past their back, right? And when you look at their actual hair texture itself, though, you can tell it's not getting, and this is just me growing up around a whole bunch of women. You can tell they're not actually moisturizing their scalp and all that. I'm not criticizing when I'm making a point about focusing on the wrong thing.
Yeah, plus you're damaging that.
There's nothing wrong with a weave, because a weave is a protective style. However, if you're not focusing on taking care of your actual scalp and hair itself, then what's the point of the weave?
That's true.
It's a child. Think about all that weight pulling on a child's scalp. And there's hella tender-headed babies out here. Like, people have daughters. I'm sure that's not comfortable for a kid. You feel me? And we don't know what's under there. I'm sure it's not a natural style underneath all those children's hair, especially for those competitions. You're going to need the hair to cooperate with you on short notice like that. And the kid's not going to be sitting somewhere for 19 hours under the light for that to happen. You feel me? It's, you're putting some creamy crack in the baby's heads, and that may lead to some problems.
Yeah, exactly. Woo. So.
Real good conversation, man. Really good conversation. So, like, you were supposed to go back to a particular point, Chief Meta and also Chief Drea. I believe it was involving political blackness, and I'm trying to remember exactly what that was, but it was definitely involving political blackness. So forgive me if it slipped my mind exactly what it was. You guys kept saying it, and then I forgot. So, but if not, we can go ahead and close out.
I'm trying to think. Oh, I wanted to add one piece of political blackness. I just looked at my notes. It wasn't, it's saying to what I was saying before. It's like this: we are the world. Politics, yeah, we are Black, and I had a problem with this one when it says Black History Month traditionally celebrates the culture of Britons of African and Caribbean descent. That's actually false, as Carter G. Woodson is ADOS. He was a son of former slaves. He's the one that birthed Negro History Week now, which is Black History Month. So I just don't. I understand they're talking about UK, but this article, because I pulled it up. It's like y'all didn't do research on Black History Month.
Yeah, they should have said it's a parallel. They made it seem like they made it up 100%. That's not it. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
But this is why the UK were late adopters of Black History Month. They didn't really start celebrating Black History Month until I believe it was around 1987, maybe 1988. Oh. So they're very young in terms of celebrating the contributions of us, and then they're trying to tie in Caribbeans and all these other people who can say, "Hey, I experienced racism." What does experiencing racism have to do with celebrating the contributions of the people that have built your society?
I don't think they're
I'm not saying that racism, you can't focus on racism. What I'm saying is when it comes to Black History Month, is celebrating the contributions.
Right.
Exactly.
Hold on. In their case though, because my mom is ADOS, but she was born over there on base, so I've got interest in their culture. You feel me? Like she had brought me there before, but the Windrush people, right? They actually did rebuild their country after World War II. They came back in the 50s and rebuilt it. So them celebrating the parallel makes perfect sense, and them celebrating in 1987 is like a 30 or 40 year gap, after, because they came in the 50s. So I'm going to say 40 years from World War II and 30 years from the Windrush, which is in the early 50s. So yes, I'd say they're right for that, but they should have expanded. You were right about them expanding on the full origin of Black History Month, period. And I think it's disrespectful to the spirit of Black History Month for them to have included people outside of the Caribbean and Africa, because that's their source. Like the early core of Black Britons was people that you would consider African Americans, but it's majority, Caribbean and African over there. Just like in Canada, the first Black people up here were African Nova Scotians and Black refugees. And there was a small sprinkling of Maroons in there. But it was, us basically first, because I rock with them. I used to live in Nova Scotia too. And they got a whole different culture and accent and everything. Like they sound way different. They sound like Sea Island people. It's crazy. Yeah. But they have I don't know. I'm not going to incriminate them, but they got a different type of street culture too than people here.
Right.
But as people don't really know about them. They don't know about. Hold on. Here's another gap about the Canadian.
Okay.
Rosa Parks.
Oh yeah. I heard about her.
She was Viola Desmond. She was actually Nova Scotian, so she was African American descent. So that's just the ha. Like when people bring that up, like, do you know she was Scotian? She wasn't Caribbean. They didn't come here till the 60s, just like everywhere else. But she was actually educated, because there was segregation in Nova Scotia. That's something that people don't speak about. She was arrested in Nova Scotia because she was in a theater and she tried to sit in the main floor seats for the white people, and that wasn't happening.
So she went to Madam C.J. Walker's beauty school in New York because she wasn't allowed to train to become a beautician in Halifax in Canada. She went to the United States to an African-American woman's school who was born in Louisiana. People don't really jump into that deep of a history. When you think of Black Canada, you think of Carabana and jerk chicken.
Right. We think of all of the commercialized front pieces of Canadian culture. We don't think of at least Black Canadian culture. We see, right after Drake popped off, you mentioned Carabana, right? And then all of a sudden, everybody wants to go visit Canada now, right? Because Canada's cool because Drake.
Yeah.
And
Drake is in Caribbean. Drake's dad is ADOS, and that's funny. Like, he's not of any Caribbean descent at all. He's a rare find up here.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't come up here like that and leave children like they do in Germany. He just happened to. I'm sure there's a couple rappers that have left babies in this town I'm in. I see a lot of mixed dudes running around, but I'm not gonna name any names. Shouts to them. They got bad.
That is so common, man. Like, come on, man. But other than that, we're gonna go ahead and close out here. For all those out there that are listening to the Chieftains podcast, thank you. Go ahead and share this podcast. Have your friends come and listen to us. Share, comment, do whatever you need to do. Subscribe, all the above. All right.
Subscribe.
We got more conversations to come. You got questions that need to be answered, go ahead and submit those. Believe me, we will answer those questions. All right.
Most definitely.
We love y'all. Thank you for rocking with us.
Chieftains.
Peace. The Chieftains.